You're listening to REIA Radio, the nationally trusted name in real estate investing. We dig deep to discover investors' why in real estate. If you want to skip all the BS and get in investors' heads, you're in the right spot. Be one of the thousands to check out REIARadio.com.
Don't be a product of your market. It's not your market. It's what's between your ears. You can make money in a great market. You can make money in a bad market. And I said, where you really make the money a lot of times is in a bad market because everybody's running out. All the HGTV people are leaving. The weekend warriors are leaving. And I said, you got to go against the grain and you got to go in when people are going out.
This episode is brought to you by JM Real Estate Capital.
Hi, it's Rob, JM Real Estate Capital. We're the money guys that you need to know for all your real estate investments. Talk to us. We can do what your local bank can't or won't do. We don't have millions. We have trillions with a T to lend. 844-WE-CLOSE or go online, jmrecapital.com. That's jmrecapital.com. JM Real Estate Capital, smart solutions for the real estate investor.
Welcome to REIA Radio, episode 185 with Bill Twyford.
Bill, welcome to the show. This is going to be a lot of fun, but starting off on a serious note here, and I don't want to make light of this. What was the most difficult health event that you had? Was it a heart attack? And maybe describe what that was like, and then also the cancer diagnosis that you received in 2020, I believe.
Yeah, 2021. I got to tell you, yeah, back around 2012, I noticed after I took a shower or after I sweat, my whole body itched. Like, you know, your second or third day of a sunburn when you're peeling and you itch it, feels good. But then the more you itch it, the worse it gets. Well, every time I took a shower, every time I sweat, I started itching and itching and itching. And it was just terrible. No matter what I used for water or for oils or anything, no matter how much, water I drank, didn't have anything to do with it. So finally, in about October of 2014, for about 3 weeks, I had this chest pain, and I kept telling my wife, God, I just feel like I need to drink a Dr. Pepper and burp or something. It just felt like I had to burp. And, it just was right in the middle of my chest here. So I just kept working for about 3 weeks and building decks and doing things like that, and rehabbing. And finally, my wife said, well, I got to take mom to, the doctor today for an appointment. I said, well, let me go too, because her doctor's my same doctor. So I went in and I told the doctor, and she, how long has this been going on? I said, about 3 weeks. So she get an EKG, and she says, well, you're having an episode. And I said, okay. So we're going to put you in an ambulance and drive you down to Lutheran. I said, listen, I've been running around for 3 weeks with this. I can drive to Lutheran. I'm okay. It's only 10 minutes. I don't need to ride an ambulance. So they made my wife drive, which then took 20 minutes, because she drives a lot slower than I do. So we get down there and they rushed me right in, and all these doctors are around me, and they said, yeah, we're going to take you in. And they did all these tests and all this stuff. And within an hour, I was in an operating room. I had 10 blood clots in my Widowmaker. And I'm lucky to be alive, So they took 8 of them out and then flushed me. And then they showed me the blood clots, and they look like little pencil dots on a piece of paper. That's how small they are. Mm-hmm. So the heart doctor said, well, you need to be checked for PV. It's called polycythemia vera. So my doctor didn't check me for that. I didn't read the notes on all that stuff. So a year later, I went back to my heart doctor for a checkup. And I said, you know what? I want to do blood work. I want to show the doctor how great I'm doing. I went from 235 pounds down to 190. And I lost all this weight. I'm doing great. And my blood work came back with my hematocrit was 66 and it's supposed to be in the low 40s. And my body was just
your blood thickness, right? The thickness of your blood measurement.
The thickness of the blood, yeah. And my hemoglobins were 22. So the thing of it is, my blood's getting thicker and thicker and thicker, which, I used to be a painting contractor. I understand how a pump works. The thicker the paint is, the harder it is for the pump to push it through. So,
that's a pretty good analogy, actually.
Yeah. So my doctor, she goes, well, you got to come in and have your blood taken again because this can't be right. So I went back in and it was even worse. It was 68. So then she said, well, you're going to have to go right I'm going to send you to the oncologist. And then my doctor was a female doctor, and so she starts crying. I said, what the hell are you crying about? She goes, well, you got something really serious going on. I said, hey, whatever it is, we're going to fix it. So I went to the oncologist, and for 6 weeks in a row, I had phlebotomies to get my numbers down. And then they put me on chemotherapy starting in December of 2015. And I was on chemo pills, hydroxyurea, till about 2021, early 2021. And then I just started tanking. I didn't have any energy, and everything was just, so hard to do, because I had no energy. And I went and did blood work, and now my hematocrit was down to 24, and my hemoglobins were down to 7. So, I was iron deficiency, and they were talking about doing blood transfusions. So I told the doctor, I said, well, what else can we figure out this is? He goes, well, it could be myelofibrosis, which is a real aggressive blood cancer. And I said, okay, well, how do we do that? He said, with the bone marrow biopsy. I said, all right, let's get that scheduled. So we did. Now, I'm kind of a forward thinking kind of person. I'm just like, let's move forward. Let's get this taken care of and let's just push through. So we did the bone marrow biopsy. And then on July 14th, 2021, I was diagnosed with myelofibrosis, a real aggressive blood cancer, the same day my grandson was born. So he was named Winston William Scott Twyford after me. But the same day he was born, I was diagnosed with this real aggressive blood cancer. And the doctor said, you got a real aggressive blood cancer. He goes, you got probably, according to your numbers and according to all the questions you answered, you probably have about 3 years to live. And I said to him, okay, well, this is good news. That's what I told him. And he said to me, he goes, you're the only person that I've ever told has cancer, and you think it's good news. And I said, well, now I know what we're fighting. So I said, what do we do to beat this? And he says, well, you have to go through a whole bone marrow stem cell transplant. But he said, that's going to take 2 years out of your life. So why don't we try this experimental drug called Jakafi, for 6 or 8 months? And I said, Doc, listen, I said, I'm stronger now than I will be in 6 or 8 months. And I said, let's just go with the stem cell transplant. Let's just figure this thing out. I said, get me over there to CBCI, which is Colorado Blood Cancer Institute. And he sent me over there. A month later, I went in and I told them, I said, this is what I want to do. And they said, well, this is what we can do. And by the time they got everything scheduled and did all their tests, I went in February of 2022. And I had 6 real strong, 5 hours a day chemo. And I was in the hospital for 30 days. Then I was in special housing for almost a year. My wife was my caretaker. And now I've got 25-year-old female DNA. I'm 100% cured. So now I can go in both bathrooms legally because I have female DNA.
True or false? I read somewhere in doing a little research on your background that you have a completely different blood type than you did before. Is that true?
Yeah, I was A negative. Now I'm O positive. So they changed.
That is nuts. I didn't even know that was possible.
I didn't either, but that's what they told me. And I have to wear this bracelet with me all the time. It's a medical bracelet, to see what plasma I need and what blood type and all that kind of stuff. So, but other than that, I feel great. And the psychologist came in and she says, now listen, on day one, she came in, they were checking me in, and she says, now we're going to have 4 30-minute sessions about mindset and about what you're going to go through. And I said to her, I says, listen, I said, I don't need 4 sets of 30-minute sessions. I said, let me tell you what I'm going to do here. Because when I walked in, to the hospital, into this special area. They wipe you all down. They do all the stuff because there's only 13 people on this floor in this month that I was there, and 3 of them passed away. But when I walked in, they clean you all up and get you in so where you don't have any germs. So I went over and rang the bell right away. And the lady said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm ringing the bell." And she said, "Well, you don't do that until you leave." And I said, "I've already got it up here. I'm cured." So I said, "It's your job now to do your thing." I said, "So I'm ready to rock and roll." So I said, "Where's my room?" They gave me my room. And it's like 9:30 in the morning. And I said, "When are we going to start chemo?" And they said, "Not till tomorrow." I said, "Well, what are we going to do today?" And they said, "We're just going to take blood and you're going to eat." And I'm thinking, okay. So I got to just, because I'm kind of like, I want to get this thing going and I want to get through it. So the psychologist said to me, she goes, "Well, a lot of people come in. The national average is 4 out of 10 don't make it 3 years. Well, my 3 years is up in a couple weeks. And I just said to her, I said, "Listen, I'm going to be the buffalo." And I said, "The buffalo is the only animal that will turn and walk into the storm so he can get through the storm. The cows, the horses, the sheep, they walk with the storm and they're in the storm longer." I said, "I'm going to face this damn thing head on." And I said, "I'm just going to move through." So I had my silk pajamas, had my rock star sunglasses on, had my fedora on. I'm walking the hallways, every single day, doing my thing. And all these people I'm seeing in there that have the same thing I've got are like, "Man, I don't know. This is rough. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not." And 3 of them died, And I believe 90% of it is your mindset. So the psychologist only came back one other time and just looked in and waved and said, "How's it going there, Buffalo Bill?" And I said, "Everything's going great." And she says, "Okay." So I said, "Take 30 minutes with somebody else." So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, I did want to ask too, and we're going to, of course, kind of rewind a little bit here and talk about how you got started. But did you get notified while you were in the cancer treatment program in Colorado that a piece or pieces of your real estate portfolio in your hometown were under some pretty serious disrepair because of some storm damage? Is that I thought I saw a clip of that.
Yep, a derecho came through in...
Where is home for you, if you wouldn't mind sharing with the listeners?
Home is Denver, Colorado. And I live up in the mountains in a little town called Bailey at 9,000 feet. But I do all my investing in the Midwest because it's great cash flow. Markets go up, markets go down. But kind of in the Midwest, they kind of go like this, but they're cash flow cows. And that's where I like to invest. And I put a lot of students there because it's safe for them. They're not going to get major appreciation, but they're also not going to, lose a lot either. But they're going to get cash flow. So we do a lot of investing for cash flow. So I invest in the eastern part of Iowa, where it comes to Clinton, Iowa, Dubuque, or Davenport, Bettendorf, stuff like that, the eastern side.
Gotcha.
Owen's an Iowa guy too, so you guys got that in common.
I'm in the pretty much as far away from you in Iowa as you can get. I was in the extreme southwest corner of Iowa, is where I'm from originally. Yeah. What was the phone call about though with the derecho coming through? What was that like? What happened?
Well,
other than
I was going there with my guys, and I was going to go there for 10 days just to get them going on this building and get things going with the contractor. And the derecho hit, and then all of a sudden I ended up staying there 52 days because we had to rebuild all of this stuff. We were taking these old metal panels. Back in the 50s and 60s, there were companies going around to these older buildings and selling these big metal thick panels that go on the outside of your building to cover up the brickwork and make it look real futuristic. Well, I want to bring everything back to the original, the way it was back when it was built in the 1890s. So we started tearing all those panels off, and we had them all off except for a couple rows at the top. And I knew I didn't want to have to deal with those rows right at that time because they were tied to a huge membrane roof. And I thought to myself, when I start opening that up, that's going to be a problem. And so we had taken all the panels off the building. All of a sudden, the derecho hit, and it went right underneath those panels that were still on the top edge, and a big membrane roof was like a big hot air balloon. It just lifted that up and just slammed it back down on the roof. So all of a sudden we're inside of the building because the cops came by and said, hey, the storm's coming by. It's going to be like 100-mile-an-hour winds. So we got off of our lift, went inside. We heard this big bang. Well, this poor guy was putting a new roof on his building next door. And I said, that poor guy is putting a brand new roof on. His roof just got destroyed. And after the storm went through, we went out and looked, and I go, oh, no, where are the 2 rows of the panels on the top? They're gone. And some of those panels were like 6-7 blocks away. And they're heavy panels. They're like 25, 30 pounds each. You get caught with one of those upside the head, you'll feel like you went like 9 rounds of Mike Tyson. So the thing of it is, we went up there and the roof was just destroyed. So I said, well, looks like I'm going to be here for a while. So I called the insurance company. They said, well, we can't cover this because you guys compromised the facade. So I thought, okay, so that cost me like 80 grand out of my pocket, like $75,000 right out of my pocket. But I'm like, okay, I've got an antique mall in there. I got tenants in there. It's raining. It's starting to leak. So we're going out to Home Depot and buying all these buckets to try to catch all the water. And, we're trying to cover it all up with plastic. So, yeah, it was a fun time. But that was easy. That was easy next to the stem cell transplant the next year.
Yeah, I bet. Oh man, that's crazy. So now we're gonna kind of peel back the layers here of the Twyford real estate experience and find out kind of about your humble beginnings in this space. But I did want to bring up, you've got some books out there, and you are also married to a published author. We'll fill in the blanks here, but I would envision she's involved in real estate as well with this.
She is. She always said she'll never date an investor until she met me, and then I NLP'd her to the altar.
We'll definitely get into to NLP too. I have a note here where I want to dig into that a little bit. But fun fact for you, Bill. So I started real estate investing in 2005. So this will be my 20th year in this crazy game. And one of the original, so I read, this is before Bigger Pockets and a lot of the online content that's out there that's a lot more easily findable and digestible. So I was a book guy. So I would pick up all these books. And I picked up a little book in about 2008 or 9 called The Short Sale Pre-Foreclosure Investing. And I think I still have it on my bookshelf at home. Yeah, I looked at the author when I was Googling around to do some research here, and it happened to be your wife. So I read one of the very first short sale specific books on real estate investing, and it happened to be your wife's book. So it all comes full circle here. Both from Iowa. We've got ties to famous author, me on the voyeur side, you the active participant in that, obviously.
The active participant.
But it's just such a small world. But I learned a lot from reading that, and so I just thought that was pretty cool. Okay, let's get into this. How did real estate investing happen for you in the first place?
Well, it's funny you asked that. And to go back to what you said, my wife wrote the very first short sale program in 1996. And in 1999, she trademarked the word short sale in the real estate industry. So she has the registered trademark. No, she has a registered trademark on the word short sale. It's just funny. We met at an event with Bill Bronchek. So how I got into real estate is I was a painting contractor. I worked for my dad. Now, this is my 44th year of being self-employed. I worked for my dad since I've been about 12 years old. He lived in Clinton, Iowa. He painted houses part-time. He worked at that time, Clinton Corn Processing. They do high fructose corn syrup, which is so good for you. But anyway, now they make a lot of other stuff because it's called ADM. But he worked there full-time, and then after he would get off work at 3:30, we would go and paint houses. I would be out of school, the summertime, I'd work all summer long to make money because I wanted to buy certain things and I wanted to have money. So I told my dad when I was 13 years old, I said, Dad, you make much more money painting houses part-time than you do working your job. Why don't you just quit your job and we'll just paint houses full-time? And he says, I can't do that. He goes, if I do that, he says, I don't have insurance. I don't have benefits. I don't have all this, consistent paycheck. I said, yeah, but all that stuff you can make. Now, this is the mind of a 13-year-old kid. And I told him, I said, well, I'll tell you what, when I get old enough, I'm going to have my own business. So I worked for him. He was a painting contractor. I learned how to sheetrock, how to do taping and floating, wallpapering, the acoustical texture ceilings back then, the ones we scrape off now.
Popcorn.
The popcorn ceilings with the hopper guns. I learned how to sandblast and do coatings and paint water towers. So by the time I was like 21, 22 years old, I told my dad, I said, listen, I don't want to live in the Midwest anymore. I want to be able to move somewhere where I can work year round outside. So I'm going to move to Houston. So that's what I did. I moved to Houston in 1982. I was 24, just turned 24 years old. I didn't know anybody at all. I was married, so I took my wife with me, and I didn't know anybody. And the first thing I did was I went out door knocking on refineries because I did a lot of industrial sandblasting. Now, I had saved up some money. I bought myself a van, bought myself a sandblasting pot and a paint sprayer and all that stuff. And I went door knocking. I went to Arco Chemical, went to Shell Oil, went to Goodyear, went to all these different places talking to the purchasing agent, maintenance managers. And I got in and they gave me a few jobs. So, I got my insurance, went in there, started working. And about 1993, we were doing a 2 million gallon tank, the inside of a tank for Arco Chemical. And I couldn't pass the respirator test. And that's where you blow into a tube for a period of seconds to see what your lung capacity is. And I couldn't pass the test. And I got all my guys. At this time, I have anywhere from 40 to 50 guys, which is running an adult daycare center, So, so I've got all these guys working. They all passed the test, and they're smoking like 2 packs of cigarettes a day. So the guy says, he goes, the guy that did the test, he goes, well, do you smoke? I said, no, I've never puffed a cigarette. I've never been drunk. I've never done drugs, even though I look like I do. I said, the thing of it is, I said, I've never done any of that. I've dated 2 women, married both of them. So I said, I'm kind of like a dinosaur. So he says, well, you need to go to the doctor and see what's going on with your lungs. Went to the doctor. He says, yeah, you got a lot of lung damage from over the years of sanding drywall dust, which got asbestos in it back then in the 70s, and wallpaper paste had asbestos in it. And a lot of the coatings we used back in the 70s, now they don't have. And some of them they do have. You have to wear air-fed respirators to spray them. And we're just spraying them with just regular charcoal respirators. So he just says, listen, you got to get out of this business. You're going to be dead by the time you're 40. And I thought to myself, damn, man, I don't know anything else to do. This is all I've done my whole life. I just have a high school graduation. So I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to go to college. I'm going to become a chiropractor. That's what I thought in 1993. I've always gone to chiropractors, and I thought, what the hell? I'm going to be a chiropractor. That can't be too hard to do. So, it's 4 years of college and then, a couple more years after that. So I started and went to college in 1993. I got 46 credit hours in 1 year with a 3.67 grade point average. Now, I've never been to school other than high school, but I'm a very focused, forward-thinking, driven individual. And I thought to myself, well, hell, I can be out of here real soon, But then I always wanted to live in Colorado. So I thought, well, I'm going to transfer up to Denver, and then I'm just going to live in the mountains. Well, I got up to Denver, and the closest chiropractic school was in Kansas City or it was in Seattle. And I thought, okay, well, that's not going to work. So I told my mother-in-law at that time, I said, I just don't know what to do. I got about $300,000. I don't have a lot, but I'm 35 years old at this time. I just don't know what to do. So she said, you need to be selling expensive stuff. So I said, well, I'm going to take my money. I'm going to build a house. I love construction. So I walk into a Metro Brokers in Conifer, Colorado, and there's an agent sitting there. His name's Gary Neist. friend of mine. Now, I don't know him at this time, but he's still a friend of mine now. But he's sitting there watching TV with his feet up on the desk. And I said, hey, my name is Bill. I'm looking to buy some land. He hands me an MLS book. He says, the land's in the back. If you see anything you like, let me know. I'll take it out and show it to you. I said, this is what you do all day long? And he says, yeah, I just sit here and watch TV and wait for people to come in. I said, okay, well, how many houses a year do you sell? He says, 12 to 15. I said, well, how much you make per house? He says, $5,000-6,000. I'm like, all right, this guy's making 60 to 80 grand a year watching TV. So I look over at the TV. He's watching the Flintstones at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I thought to myself, what the heck? So I said to him, what would happen if you sold 100 houses a year? Think of the money you're going to make. He said to me, oh, you don't want to do that. That's too much work. And I knew at that point, that's what I wanted to do. Because in the 80s, I was making a couple $100,000 a year as an industrial painting contractor. In 86, I bought a brand new Mercedes for 62 grand, which was a lot of money. I put a cell phone in it in 86 that had a little cord that went up that had a little microphone where I could dial the number and I could talk while I was driving hands-free. That stupid thing cost me $1,400 a month to have. But you know what? The 80s was all about me. That's what the 80s was all about. Now, you guys probably don't remember the 80s. You're not old enough. But
I don't know if my picture's not coming through very clear, but I remember vividly the 80s.
You do? Okay. And it's so funny. So, so I'm used to making a couple $100 grand a year, which is a hell of a lot of money now, but it was a hell of a lot of money back then. And my whole thing is I'm thinking, I can't live off 60 or 80,000 bucks a year here, doing this. My lifestyle is like 250, 300. So I said, what happens if you sell 100 houses a year? He said, you don't want to do it. It's too much work. I thought, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. So I went and got my real estate license. You could go for 7 days and get a real estate license, or you could go for 31 days and become a broker. So I just went 31 days and became a broker. And then I went to RE/MAX, and I went to Metro Broker, and then I went to Coldwell Banker. And I walked into Coldwell Banker and I said, hey, listen, I would like to be on your team here. I said, this is what I've done. And I just got my license. And this was on July 18th. So he hired me. My first day of work was July 19th. Now we had 42 agents in the office. He says, I'm only hiring you because you sound just like this guy. And he hands me some Mike Ferry tapes. Mike and Tom and Matt. Mike's been my mentor for years. And Tom and Matt, hell, I knew them when they were still, in their 20s and stuff, when they worked for their dad. So we're real good friends. Every time they come to Denver, they come to our house, and we go to their house in California and stuff. Now Tom's in Dallas. But it's funny because my first day was July 19th, 1994. And there's 42 agents in our office. And by the end of the month, I guess I wasn't making any friends in the office, but, I was kind of like just in there making phone calls. I was calling expired listings for sale by owners, just listed, just sold, cold calling. That's all I did 6 hours a day. So by the end of July, I was the listing leader. I was the sales leader. I had a Premier Performance Award. As a referral leader. I got all these awards. I didn't get the closing leader because I didn't close anything yet. But I got all these awards the first month. And I remember going home and telling my wife, I said, well, this isn't hard to do. I said, this is easy. You just make phone calls. You just go meet with people, list their house, and then sell it. And I ended up, so I hired Mike Ferry, paid him $17,000 in 1994 to mentor me one-on-one. And my first year, I sold 79 homes working Monday through Thursday. And my next year, 123. My next year, 178. And my last year, 194. So I sold 574 homes in 4 years. But then I started working in 97, 98, I started working with a lot of people in foreclosure. And I could see where I could go in and partner with homeowners and split equity. And I could make $60,000 to $80,000 a deal instead of just getting a commission. So I put my license on hold in 2000, and I got into real estate as an agent in 98. And then in 2000, my lender says, he goes, oh, come on, you got to go to this seminar with me that Bill Bronchek's putting on. You guys know Bill Bronchek?
He was one of the OG. Yeah, he was in Denver, right? Wasn't
yeah,
he a Colorado guy? Yeah,
yeah.
I remember he had a website a long time ago. It was like before Bigger Pockets was even out. It was one of the very few that I could find. It had a forum on it. I think it was called CRE Online or something like that.
CRE Online was J.P. Vaughn. He had a thing called carry.org. Carry.org was Colorado Area Real Estate Investor Association. We ended up buying that in 2016 from Bill Bronchek. That's where Dwan and I met.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
My lender said, oh, you got to come to this workshop. It's multi-speaker for 3 days. I said, dude, listen, I'm making over $500,000 a year. I'm not going to go there, listen to a bunch of speakers, sell a program for $700 that I probably don't need. I've got a system worked out. I said, I don't need to go. He said, oh, go one day. He goes, listen, just go one day. I already bought you a ticket. I'm only going Friday. That's it. So now I'm in the middle of a divorce. My divorce is almost final. And I go there, and Dwan happens to be one of the speakers. And I met her, and she was just sitting in the audience. I didn't realize she was a speaker until I started looking at the brochure. So I went over and started talking to her. At that time, I had a ponytail. I had a suit. I had ostrich cowboy boots on. And that was, I guess, her look, what she was looking for. And she didn't come there looking for me, though.
Owen always wears his ostrich boots in here. You just can't see because he's hiding them underneath here.
No, that's not even close to. I could not pull that
But
off.
Bill, I do own that shirt. So when we finally meet, I'll make sure I wear that same shirt.
Well, this shirt was a set of curtains in a rehab. I figured I'd make a shirt out of it.
This explains a lot about Ted.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And what's funny though? So I met Dwan, and then we started talking, and one thing led to another. A year and a half later, we got married. She lived in Florida. She moved up to Colorado. We kept the house in Florida. And then she had a friend named Michelle Odyssey. I don't know if she's still around, but Michelle Odyssey came to her and said, listen, here's what I want you to do. She goes, I want to be on the phone with you for a whole hour. I'm going to record it. And then what we'll do is we'll make cassettes of it and we'll sell it as like teleconference calls, trainings. And Dwan and Michelle Odyssey did the very first teleconference webinar thing in like 2001.
They were podcasters before podcasting was podcasting, right?
And they would burn them on cassettes, and then they would send them to people. And then 2 years later, they put them on CDs. We still have a copy of them. And then J.P. Vaughn comes in from CRE Online. And Dwan reaches out to her because Dwan was speaking for her in Atlanta at her big events that she had twice a year. And she says, JP, we need to do a short sale webinar. And they started calling them webinars then. And they started doing them. And her and JP Vaughn made over $3 million on webinars in about a 4-year period. I mean, it's just crushing it because, well, you started in 2005. So short sales were so big back then. You know what I mean? Because it was something. I mean, Dwan would go to a group of 80 people and sell 50 people in the room $1,000 short sale program, because everybody was buying the program.
Now, do you think that that's coming back with the way the economy has been going?
Yeah. The economies are cyclical. They generally run 7 to 9 year cycles. They go up, they go down. Every time they go up and they're in a great, the market's great. Everybody thinks it's never going to come down, but, everything is cyclical. And I always teach all the time. I go, listen, don't be a product of your market. It's not your market. It's what's between your ears. You can make money in a great market. You can make money in a bad market. And I said, where you really make the money a lot of times is in a bad market because everybody's running out. All the HGTV people are leaving. The weekend warriors are leaving. And I said, you got to go against the grain and you got to go in when people are going out. That's exactly what I did in Clinton. I saw buildings there that were 150,000, that were 30,000 square feet. And I see them dropping to 120. Then I see them dropping to 99. Then I see them dropping to 79. So I offer 32 and they go, we're not taking that. I said, all right, I don't have to buy. You have to sell. And I knew they lived in Arizona. So they came back about a month later and said, well, will you do 45? I go, no, I'm not going to do 45. This is in November. I said, I'll do 32. So I stayed at 32. Now I'm buying this thing for like $1.20 a square foot. You can't buy plywood that cheap. So and I'm thinking to myself, I'm just going to sit and wait. And so they come back and say, okay, we'll take your 32. How soon can you close? I said, not until the end of February. And they go, why? It's a cash deal. I said, I got to come to Iowa. I just want to do a walkthrough. Now, I didn't need to do that, but I didn't want to have to pay the damn heat bill through the wintertime. So I let them pay the heat bill, and then I got it in March. So that's kind of how we set it up.
I really like what you did there with, you made basically an I don't want it offer. So you said, we're so far apart on price where a lot of people would have the thought of just, I'm not even going to, why would we even talk further? I'm so far apart from them. But you basically named your number and didn't budge on it. That's when you're dealing with a motivated seller, is when they start coming to you and going way past the perceived win-win point in the negotiation, to the point where it's like, if you want to sell this to me, it's probably going to hurt, but I'm going to stick to my guns on the number. And I just like making offers like that, because it doesn't have to be offensive. You can just say, look, listen, I know this is not going to work for you. We're way too far apart, and that's fine. But if you can't sell this, here's what I can do. And, you know, they may very well come back to you. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this in the years and years that you've been doing this. I have a bunch of times bought stuff that way. So I really like that method of doing it.
And it's funny because I always, and I taught my son and our students, I always say, you have to put yourself in a position to where you're not emotionally attached to the outcome. I said, you have to think, I don't have to buy, you have to sell. And when you take on that attitude, now about 8 months later, let's see, that would have been in February, then in August, a lady calls me. She walks into my antique store, because the building I bought there for $32,000, you know, it was 26,000 square feet. I thought, what am I going to do? I figured, well, you know what? Midwest is big on antiques. I'm just going to throw it in an antique shop. So I did. So you can look that up too. It's everythingriverfront.com. That's our website for our antique store and our boutique and our marketplace and coffee shop. So I threw an antique store in there. And in August, this lady walks in the antique store. She goes, I need to get Bill Twyford's number. And she says, well, I just can't give you his number, but I can take your number. So my, employee called me, and I said, oh, you give her my number. That's fine. Because she wants to sell 3 buildings in town, and they're nice buildings. And I said, one of them brings in $875, one of them brings in $1,550, and one of them brings in $900. So you're looking at that. They're about $3,500, So she calls me up. She goes, Bill, I want to talk to you about selling you my building. She goes, I'm moving to Florida October 1st, and I want to sell them, and I want to have them closed by then. And I said, what do you want for them? She goes, well, I got to have $275 to $300. I said, well, can we go look at the buildings tomorrow? And she said, yeah, because I was just happy coming to town. About the second, third week of August, we walked through the buildings. They're in perfect shape. They've got long-term tenants. And all of a sudden, I said, okay, let's meet tomorrow for lunch. I'm going to give you 3 offers. And she says, okay, sounds good. So I went in there. She goes, you're going to give me an offer on each building? I said, no, I'm going to give you an offer on all the buildings, but I'm going to give you 3 separate offers. And she goes, okay. So then we sat down at a Mexican restaurant, and I said, you want $275? I said, I'm not at $275. I'm not even close to $275. I got 6 other buildings I'm working on right now. And I said, I really don't need these buildings, but I know you're in a pinch. I said, they're nice buildings. And I said, I knew your husband, and my dad knew your husband really well. I knew her husband when I was a kid. And I said to her, I go, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. The first offer, I'll buy all 3 of them for $130,000 cash. And she said, well, I'm not going to do that. She was kind of offended. And I'm like, I didn't think you would. But I said, what's the second offer? And I said to her, it's $165 with $35,000 down. You finance $130 for 10 years. And she goes, well, I don't want to do that either. She goes, what's the third offer? I said, the third offer is $200,000. I said, I'm putting down $5,000. And I said, you're going to carry $195,000 for 10 years. And she goes, well, I like the 200,000. Can you do $35,000 down? I said, I can at 165, but not at 200. And she goes, well, okay, I'll take the 200 with $5,000 down. I said, okay, sounds good. So she took that offer. We wrote it up. We closed like 3 weeks later, and I had to bring to closing $1,297 because of the prorations of the taxes and stuff. So immediately I go to the tenants and say, hey, here's where you're going to be making your checks. I closed 3 days before the 1st of October. So now I got $1,550, I got $900, and I got $875 coming in 3 days later. So I'm really in this thing for no money, you know. And I asked the foot doctor, who's been there for 7 years, I said, how come you didn't buy the building when she had it up for sale? He goes, I didn't have the $50,000 down she wanted to buy this building. And I said, yeah, she was pretty tough to deal with. That's what I told him. Now, one of the people had been there for 25 years. She's a chiropractor. She pays $875. And it's like, she's still there. And that was 5 years ago. She's still there. So I'm just like, okay, you know, so that's how I pick up buildings. I just wait. You know, I just picked up another building there, 31,000 square feet. They wanted $992 for it. And I told my realtor, I said, well, they're definitely the highest bidder on their property. So I said, nobody's going to buy that property for that. I mean, you know, 992,000, 31,000 square feet, really the numbers make sense, but they don't make sense for the location. I saw them drop it to 675. Then I saw them drop it to 450. Then I saw them drop it to 399. So then I went there I went there over New Year's, and I took a picture of the for sale sign. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to throw in 198 and just tell them we'll just take it as is. I don't need to walk through the building because it's a Masonic temple. It's a great building. It's in great shape. They just spent over $80,000 putting a new roof on it. It is 31,000 square feet. So they came back and said, that's pretty low. I said, that's where I'm at. And like 3 days later, they said, okay, we'll take it. So now I've got somebody I can flip that to for 275. So I don't know if I'm going to flip it or if I'm going to keep it because it's a great building in a great area. And I own like 22 buildings in a little like 5 square block area downtown. And it's just a nice building, but I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with it. But for 198, I couldn't pass it up.
I want to highlight something about your story there in that you, just by talking and being willing to throw a number out, basically put yourself in a position where you could, if you decided to, walk away with $75,000 a month later if you wanted to, because you have an end buyer.
Right, I do.
And this, again, goes back to the power of making offers. It doesn't matter what their number is. It matters what your number is. And if they don't want to meet it, that's okay. I mean, deals fall apart all the time, right? And people avoid going into a transaction with somebody because they are too far apart. That's fine. You can't buy every property you look at. But if you set your anchor price at a firm spot and your offer's solid, they may very well come back. And you may be in a position where you can disposition that, hold on to it, do stuff with it. I just love it, man. I love that approach of just making I don't want it offers and forgetting about them. And they may very well come back knocking and saying, we'll take it if it's still good.
Yeah. Well, my wife used to always say, when you're making a short sale offer to the bank, if the offer doesn't embarrass you, it's too high.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and it's funny though, when you're making those offers like that, like you just said, going in with the attitude, I don't have to buy, you know, but this is where I'm at. If you really want to sell, I'm your guy. But I'm not the guy you probably want to deal with right now, you know? And I've told that to people. I love to negotiate deals. It's fun
sounds like it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Now, how did you negotiate the deal to get your now wife married to you?
Oh, it was so funny. I talked to her. I met her on Friday, and then I went to the event Saturday and Sunday because I thought, wow, I got to spend 3 days with this lady, you know? And this was only like her third time speaking, you know. She had some programs, a wholesale program, a finding program, a rehab program, and a short sale program. And this was like her third or fourth time she had spoke. And we just got talking in the back of the room, on breaks. And, I had to leave every single day because at that time, I had 2 kids. I had my son and my daughter, Chris and Bill. And the thing of it is, my ex-wife at the time was watching the kids while I was going to this real estate seminar in Denver. And that's where I met Dwan. So I had to get back every day. So Dwan always said, hey, do you want to go eat dinner tonight or whatever? I wanted to, but I couldn't because I had to get back to my kids, so my ex-wife could leave and go home. Anyway, I just, walked up to her, talked to her. Before we left, she was at the back of the table selling programs, and I had to leave early. And I just reached across the table to shake her hand, and I pulled her towards me, and I kissed her on the cheek. And I said, I'll give you a call, because she had given me her number. I gave her my number. And Sharon, her partner at the time, and this is a story Dwan tells me, Sharon, the partner, said, did that guy just reach over and kiss you? And she goes,
that's a power move, by the way.
Yeah, I know. She goes, yeah, he did. And she goes, stalker. She goes, what the hell is wrong with him? And Dwan goes, I don't know. I kind of like it. He's just kind of like there. He's in front of you. And I didn't know what to do. So I just thought, okay. And then I just walked out of the room. And then we talked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I told her, I said, well, you're the lady I'm going to marry. So, my divorce got final on a Tuesday. We went down to get a marriage license on Friday. And Dwan and I went to the courthouse. And the guy, he looks at me, he goes, dude, your divorce was final yesterday. He says, you're applying for a marriage license? He says, you sure you want to jump right back into that hot frying pan? And Dwan goes, hello, I'm standing right here.
So how long were you together at this point? Is this the same week that you guys met?
No. I told her on Thursday. Okay. I met her on Friday. I told her the next Thursday I was going to marry her. But then we had to go through and finalize the divorce and all that kind of stuff. And that took a while because, when you go through a divorce, it got drug out, but is what it is.
Now, going through the gauntlet of short sales and foreclosures that basically existed during the Great Financial Crisis and for a few years after that, and having operated in real estate and so forth before and after that, what's been your favorite era of investing and why?
Honestly, it was like 2008 to about 2015 was my favorite time because everybody was running from real estate. Prices were just tumbling. I was in Florida in October of 2007 or 2006. And I was there, Ron LeGrand. I mean, all these speakers were there. Ted Thomas, all of them. And there were 400 people in the audience, and we were on a panel. Well, I happen to be on the end. And I wear shirts like this. I wear leather pants and things like that. And all these other speakers look like cardboard cutouts. They all look like bankers. They all look the same. So everybody happens to remember me as a speaker because of the way I dress. And I happen to be on the very end. And the first question was, we're going to ask Bill this question because he's on the end. What do you think is going to happen to the real estate market in Florida? And I said, well, I went up like 22% last year and like 20% the year before and like 20% the year before. I said, it's just going to tank. Well, they booed me. And I said, hey, you can boo me all you want. I said, things don't just keep going up all the time. I said, that's just not the way it works. And one guy yelled out, he goes, there's 760 people moving into South Florida every single day. Well, I'm a stat guy. And I knew we were going to get questions about the market. So I said back to him, how many people are dying every day in South Florida? He said, I don't know. I said 740. So you got a net 20 people. I said those 740 aren't coming back. And then everybody laughed because I just took his numbers out of his mouth, and that's what it was. Yeah. That's what's dying. That's what's moving in. And I said, most people move to Florida to die. It's the waiting room for heaven. They do. So the thing is we just had a good conversation. We talked about the market changing. The market did change. I liked that kind of a market. We went into St. Pete with one of our students from 2010 to 2012. In those 3 years, we rehabbed and flipped 163 homes. And we did that. We were buying them for 20, 25,000, putting 20 grand into them, selling them for 65 to 80,000. And we did so many in a 30 square block area that we couldn't buy houses for less than $60,000 that we were buying for 22 and 25. So we kind of worked our way out of that honey hole. But there was so much money we made in that time period. I like the market now kind of the way it is too, different parts of markets in different parts of the country.
Well, obviously, because St. Pete's a completely different market than small town Iowa, and
for
especially
sure.
doing commercial. Real quick, on the Iowa side of that, I'm hearing more from investors that are investing into the small towns, but usually people are like, hey, there's a meat packing plant, there's a chicken processing there. Like, what is some of the criteria that you would advise somebody to look into a small town investing? Because the prices are right, but it's definitely riskier because of the population decline.
True, for sure. And the thing of it is, in a lot of these little towns, they've got a lot of grants, beautification projects going on. I like river towns is what I like, to be honest with you, because everybody loves water. Everybody loves to be on the water. So that attracts people. They do have some processing plants coming in. They do have alcohol plants coming in. They have plans for maybe an Audi plant coming in. I'm sorry, a Fiat plant in eastern Iowa right there, right in Clinton County. So, they do have a lot of little things that are going on in some of those counties. But when you start getting out into the smaller towns in the middle of nowhere, you're right. There's just so many people that rent, and there's so many people that own, and you're so limited on what you can do. I fix up a building. If I can't get somebody to rent it, I put a store in there, a retail store. So that's what I do. And that has completely turned the downtown around over the last 8 years, because I put in an antique store, I put in a boutique, I put in a coffee shop, a marketplace, an event center. So now other people are like, oh my gosh, look what's going on downtown. So now they're putting businesses in there. Now those businesses are not making me any money at all, but they're turning the downtown around, which is raising the prices about 30% of the commercial stuff down there.
I had a note here on Clinton, Iowa. So roughly about 25,000 population, real close to the Illinois border, right? So Iowa, Illinois separated. And fun fact, you probably know this, I'm sure. At one point, if not still, it was home of the world's largest windmill or sawmill. Is that true?
I don't know that. I just know Felix Adler's from there, and he was the original clown. I know that, and I know Alex Karras used to live there. He used to play for the Lions.
Okay, well, I've got two more little sound bites here. One is, at one point, they had the most millionaires per capita in the entire world in Clinton, Iowa. What? I assume that was you.
Yeah, no,
you're the millionaire in that town.
Yeah, way before me in the 1890s. Clinton was a lumber baron town, and they had more millionaires per capita. They had 1 millionaire for every 1,005 people, which was more than anywhere. And Clinton's first name was New York City back in the 1830s.
Wow, that's crazy.
DeWitt Clinton, if you'll look in Manhattan on the west side, kind of where Central Park is on the west side of Central Park, there's a park there called the DeWitt Clinton. And DeWitt Clinton, I want to say, was a senator in New York and ended up moving to Clinton and naming Clinton after him, Clinton County. And also there's a little town called DeWitt. That's right outside of Clinton, like 10 miles.
Yeah. Now, the last note I had was the Christmas displays there are apparently countrywide renowned, where people, you mentioned New York, sounds like people from New York even go all the way to Clinton, Iowa to see the Christmas lights. Are you like Clark Griswold in Clinton?
No, I am not, but I'm going to be next year because we found a guy that had a house and he runs all these lights off his computer system. And he plays this Christmas music and the lights flash.
Yeah.
So we've hired him to do that to one of our keynote buildings downtown. And I told Juan, I said, that's probably going to cost us 50 to 70 grand to do that. But once we have it set up, I said, then we're going to go ahead and just blast it to where it has its own radio station and everybody will want to come down there and see it.
Oh, that's so cool. I really applaud you for investing in your, community there, your roots. I'm getting involved in some stuff from my small town and improving, affordable housing initiatives and talking about, commercial development in that area and how to increase it. And it just makes you feel good in addition to really breathing life back into a place where, let's face it, a lot of kids, end up moving away and they have population growth problems with lack of jobs and proximity to, urban areas. But that's super cool, man. So out of all the wide-ranging types of things you've done, commercial development, ownership of businesses that you put into your own properties, breathing life into small towns, getting up on roofs while derechos are coming through and potentially blowing you away like the Wizard of Oz, what's something that's happened in your real estate investing or real estate business over the years that hasn't gone very well? Because we have a section in our podcast here that we call Failing Forward.
This Failing Forward is brought to you by Magic Door.
Magic Door is the AI-powered property management platform designed to handle everything from the rent cycle to the vacancy and maintenance cycles. During the rent cycle, Magic Door collects rent, sends automatic reminders, deducts management fees, and distributes payments to owners. In the vacancy cycle, Magic Door streamlines listings, tenant applications, seamless multi-language communication, screening tenants, and converting applications into leases with one click. And for the maintenance cycle, Magic Door's AI handles everything, asking tenants key questions, assigning tasks to vendors, and scheduling repairs automatically without you getting involved. With no hidden fees, no onboarding costs, and seamless AI-powered automation, Magic Door takes care of the entire property management lifecycle so you can focus on what matters most.
You got to fail to succeed. That's the thing. But the problem is a lot of people fail and they quit. And so many people are so close to being successful, but they just don't see it through. They quit right before they win. And it's happened to me many times. I mean, just in stupid things. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was 18 years old, I bought my first house, 1976. I found my taxes just about 6 months ago. I'm going through a box of a bunch of crap that's in a closet, and I find my 1976 taxes. The first year I filed taxes, I made $36,900. Think about that for a second. That was a hell of a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. In 1976, I bought my first house for $32,000. I had 8 cars. I was renting garages all over town because I had a 70 Hemi Cuda. I had a 66 Hemi Charger. I had a 69 Hemi Roadrunner. I had these muscle cars that I wish I kept. You know,
do you have any of them anymore?
No, I bought the Hemi Cuda for $2,400. It was a funny story because I saw it when I was a kid. I saw it when I was like 15, and I never saw it again. And I was at the drag strip talking to a guy, and I said, "Yeah, I saw a Hemi Cuda in Clinton one time." He goes, "Oh, that's my brother-in-law's Cuda." I said, "No kidding." I got his phone number. I called the guy, and it was at 9:30 at night. And I said, "I'd like to come see your Cuda." He says, "Well, it's not for sale." I said, "Okay." So, and I told him, I said, "I'd like to come see it now if I could." He goes, "It's 9:30 at night." I said, "Yeah, I know, but I really want to see it." So he let me come down, and he ordered it brand new. And he said to me, he goes, "Well, it's not for sale, you know." I said, "I know, but if you were to sell it, what would you sell it for?" And he said, well, I'd have to have 2,400. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $100 now and I'll bring you the rest tomorrow. And he goes, well, I really didn't want to sell it. But then I ended up buying the damn thing. So I went home and told my dad, I said, I just bought this car for $2,400 that I've been looking for like 4 years. And I said, I don't know what to, I don't know where I'm going to get the money right now. So I said, I'm going to have to go to the bank and get a loan. So I went and got a 90-day loan, turned around and sold that car in 1982 for $6,200. And that car right now is probably 170, 200,000.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a mistake. I hated to sell those cars. Wished I wouldn't have done it, but is what it is. In real estate, went through my divorce, 99, 98, ended up losing my house because of that. And that was all my cash I had put into my house. So I had to start over from zero, but that's okay because you know what? It's like my mentor Mike always says. He goes, if you trip and fall flat on your face, you're at least going the right direction. So he says, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and move forward. And, 2008, we had a huge speaking business. I mean, 300-400 people in rooms and stuff like that. We were doing 24, 25 workshops a year, 3-day workshops, short sale workshops, wholesale workshops, scripts and communication skills, NLP workshops, 5-day workshops that were the foreclosure fortune hunt. And we were doing those, and all of a sudden, boom, everything collapsed in 2007, 8, 9. Our business really dried up. So we had to, and, our speaking business was about 60% of our income. We were still doing deals, and deals is what got us through that area, because the speaking just dried up. And another thing where we failed is we didn't stay up with technology. Sure, we did the first teleconference call, the first webinar, but we didn't stay up with technology. And a lot of these info marketers that are still out there that really are not real estate investors, they sell real estate investing programs, and they, make $100,000 on a real estate webinar. And they're really not investors. They're just really good at info marketing. There's a number of them out there because back in the early 2000s, there were only probably 25 of us national speakers. And, to be a national speaker, a lot of people, they don't want to stand in front of a crowd and speak, because they're afraid. They're afraid to handle questions. They just don't want to do it. And when the internet came out and webinars came out, now people that have done 2-3 deals are now experts. Now they have a program, and now it diluted down the real estate so bad. And then you have so many people out there that really don't know what the hell they're talking about. They haven't been through real estate cycles. So that was a tough time from 2007 to about 2010. But then we really kicked it in the butt in 2010 to 12 in St. Pete. We made back a bunch of money that we lost. And then I had a heart attack and went through all my cancer stuff and just kept pushing. And my son said to me, he goes, if there's one word that can define you, it's tenacity. He said, nobody's got the tenacity you've got. He says, no matter what the hell comes in front of you, you don't let it stop you. It may slow you down, but you push through it, over it, under it, around it. And he goes, that's the biggest thing I learned from you. And when I went in for my stem cell transplant, my son worked for me since he's been like 11, 12 years old. He's 33 now. So he's been in business 20 years. And he says to me, he goes, Dad, you pay me $2,000 a week. You're not going to be able to afford to just pay me $2,000 a week. We've only got 4 rehabs going on right now. And when those are done, what am I going to do? And I said to him, I go, Bill, you've been on over 200 apprentice trainings. And that's where we go out and work with people one-on-one at their house for 2 days. And we take them out door knocking, talking to people in foreclosure, in their area, their own backyard. I said, you've gone on over 200 of those. You know all the programs. You've been to over 300 workshops. I said, just go work the system, buddy. I said, work it like we teach it. But I said, work it like a frickin' honey badger. I said, you just got to follow up. I said, you know the 4 things. You got to prospect to find business. You've got to qualify your customer. You got to do effective lead follow-up, and you got to learn how to close. And I said, if you'll be a honey badger on those 4 things, I said, you'll never come back and work for me again. He goes, okay. He said, I'm going to do it. He went out. His first year, he made $835,000 doing this.
Wow.
Yeah. So then now I'm out. I'm ready to go back and work with him. And he goes, Dad, you can't afford me. He says, I'm like $8,000 a week. He goes, I'm not $2,000 a week anymore. And I just laugh because there's nothing I want more than my son to do better than me, and my kids.
That's super cool. Yeah.
And him to go out and make that kind of money this year, he'll go to probably $1.2 million. And he's just using the system like we teach. And he goes, Dad, if everybody just did what you told them to do and just treat it like I treat it and you treat it, he goes, they'd all make $700,000, $800,000, $900,000 a year. They would. And I believe that.
One kind of one-off question I wanted to ask you: after going through a marriage that didn't work out and jumping right back into the fray, and identifying the wife that you were about to have next within a day of your divorce, what did you learn? Generally when people go through a breakup or a divorce situation, there's usually things on both sides that they could have done differently, unless it's a really extreme example like, blatant infidelity or something like that. What's your takeaway after going through a tough marriage or a marriage ending? And how did you learn from that and take it into a successful marriage that you still have with your wife, Dwan?
Well, I had a pretty successful first marriage. I was married for 22 years. Now Dwan and I have been married 22 years. But in my first marriage, they couldn't have been total opposites. Dwan is a solution-based person, and my former wife was a blamer and a judger. So when something would go wrong, it would be my fault. If we would lose money on something, it would be my fault. And then we would bicker and bitch back and forth and do all that stuff and argue about it. And finally, I just got to the point, I thought, you don't make any decisions here. Every time I ask you, what do you think? You go, well, you just do what you think is best. And then when something goes wrong, I'm the guy in trouble. So I kind of took her out of wife status and put her in like dog status and go, okay, you're like one of the animals. I'm not asking you about doing this, or I'm not doing that, which isn't the right. I'm not the easiest guy to live with. Trust me. Okay. Dwan will tell you that too, because I'm very forward thinking. I'm very action oriented. I think when I lay down at night, and when I'm hit the floor in the morning, I'm moving, I'm ready to go. Dwan wants to talk about it. She wants to think about it. And I'm like, I'm already done all that. We're moving forward. So her and I have a little bit of bickering a little bit too, because I'm just such a fast action taker. And neither one of my wives that I've had ever think I think through things, but I do. There's 10,000 things going on in my head all the time. They just don't realize all that stuff that's going on. And, to come out of one marriage where there was infidelity on the other side, I just thought to myself, the last 4 years of that anyway, I was like, hey, you know what, if something like that happens, I'm okay with it, because I just want to move on. I ended up getting the 2 kids and ended up buying another house just a week later, and then turned right around and met Dwan 6 months later. And I just thought, hey, she had a 11-year-old daughter. I had a 13-year-old daughter. That was a big connection for Dwan, because her daughter was so shy and my daughter was so outgoing. So the difference between the two, Dwan is very supportive in a lot of decisions. And my previous wife really wasn't as supportive. She didn't want to be in the business. She wanted to ride her horse. She had real expensive horses and stuff and was showing quarter horses, which was good for me because I kind of just paid for everything and kept her out of the way to do her own thing so I could run my business and do what I needed to do. And with Dwan, all of a sudden, now I have a partner that's in business with me. And, she's got, her own podcast. She's got almost 500 episodes, dwanderful.com. So she took the word wonderful and made Dwanderful. She's a type A personality. She makes things happen. And we just have a great relationship. We just do.
Yeah. No, let's talk, if you don't mind, kind of topic shift here. You have a coaching program. You've mentioned a few times that you did different variations of education and information distribution to people in the real estate space. What is Investors Edge University?
Investors Edge University is our site that people can go to, sign up. We do webinars. We do trainings. We're in the process right now of updating the calendar and stuff like that. It's where we have our workshops and stuff like that. Our next workshop's in Atlanta. Then we have one in Denver, then one in Colorado Springs, and then we'll be in San Diego. So, we do workshops all the time. We love workshops. We love to train people. We love to travel. And people ask us all the time, if you guys make all this money doing real estate, why do you guys do workshops? Because we love to travel, and we can only help so many homeowners that are in foreclosure. Juan and I and my son can only help so many. But if we can train 250 more people to do what we do, look at all the homeowners we help. Because our motto is, it's not about the money, it's about doing the right thing for the homeowner. Because a homeowner's losing their house, and that's a real stressful thing for them.
No, that's great.
Hey, Bill, we'll definitely make sure to put some a link in our show notes for your classes and everything you offer. And man, the information has just been absolutely amazing. I appreciate this. Your story is one of a kind. I'll have to tell you that. But we have a segment that Owen and I famously call the OT with Owen and Ted.
You're going to get OT with Owen and Ted, presented by PropStream.
PropStream is one of the most trusted real estate data software solutions. PropStream benefits all real estate professionals. You can find properties and contact homeowners on the go with PropStream's mobile app. We offer free academy courses tailored to real estate investors and agents. Take advantage of our live webinar demos to learn the software and scale your real estate business. Visit www.propstream.com and sign up for your 7-day free trial to get more leads and grow your business.
And this is where we got a handful of questions that we ask all our guests. Sometimes we mix it up a hair, here and there. But Owen, we ask our first question here.
Sure, Ted, I will.
Oh, that's so professional.
so Bill, how many books have you either been featured in, authored, both, one or the other?
Oh, man, I don't know. I wrote a book, I know, with Dan Kennedy. Juan and I have written a couple books together. I've been in multiple magazines. We've been featured in a lot of articles, A.D. Kessler's stuff back in the early 2000s, Creative Real Estate Magazine. We've had a lot of articles written about us in different newspapers and stuff like that.
Do you have like an unwritten book walking around between your ears that if you got a chance to put pen to paper, you might crank out something?
You know what? Yeah, it would be. It would be a book on never giving up. One of my favorite books is Relentless by Tim Grover. When I read that book, I think to myself, Dwan reads a book and she goes, You're a closer, man. You're just like Jordan and Kobe. You don't let anything slow you down. You're just there to fight. You're there to win. You're there to make it happen. And if you lose, it's okay. I do have something up there that, because my story is a real unique story of never giving up. And, I could use so many damn excuses that my parents got divorced and I lost my best friend when he was 18 years old. He was killed in a car accident because he was on drugs. I've been through a divorce myself. I could come up with all these bullshit excuses on why I can't be successful. But you know what? If you keep thinking about all the things that happen to you and why you can't be successful, you're never going to go out and try anything new. So if you choose to change, then that's great. But if you choose not to change, you can't sit and complain about your life. It's a choice.
Okay, Bill, the second question is, you can interview anyone in the world today. It's your podcast. Doesn't have to be real estate related. Who's it going to be? And what's one question you want to ask?
Probably you two. No. God, if I could interview one person, that gets you thinking. One person. One real person in my life, if I could interview one real person, it would be Jesus. That's who it would be. That's not politically correct, but
it's not the first time we got that response.
I'm not in a position to even ask him why. Or, I would want to know about heaven. I would want to know about, how it all started. That's what I would want to know. Because I've talked to people. I've met, a lot of the big name people. So, between Jesus and Elvis, let's go with that.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so we're at the end of the road. It's your funeral, and they're about ready to give your eulogy. Who do you think would have something to say at your funeral, and what would they say?
Well, I got to tell you, there would be a lot of people. I've touched a lot of lives. I've got a really tight, small circle of people that I could call friends because I'm more about quality than quantity. And I'm okay being alone for a long time, periods of time, 30, 60, 90 days with my wife being at another house or whatever. I don't have a problem with that. So I would have a couple of good friends that would say that Bill was always there for us, including my kids and my grandkids. And they would say that he never gave up on us. He always told us to do the right thing. He always gave us a great work ethic. And he always told us to leave a relationship or a conversation better than when you came into it. And also, like my wife always says, and I know my wife would say this at my eulogy, she would say that the truths are in the red letters, because the red letters are what Jesus said in the Bible. And I know she would say that. But I have a list of songs that I would be playing. I would have them play. And I would just want the people to keep dreaming and keep shooting for their success, because true success is when you get my age and your kids want to hang around you and your grandkids want to hang around you. All the other stuff is just crap. But you know what? There's so many people that have Christmas, or they have, Easter, or they have the 4th of July, or they have these holidays and none of their kids show up because they don't have great relationships with them, because they were so business focused, or they were so focused on trying to control their kids. And I got to tell you what, our kids, if they have their choice to be around one person, it's Dwan and I, because they love being around us, because they know we're forward thinking and they know that we are always going to have their back.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay, so pretend that this person's listening, live or dead. What mentor do you want to give a shout out to you that's had the biggest impact on either your personal growth or your business?
Mike Ferry. Mike Ferry is a no-nonsense, forward-thinking, either do it my way or I don't want to talk to you kind of guy. And Mike Ferry trained Tom Ferry, trained Matthew Ferry, trained Patrick Ferry. We're all friends of mine. Between Mike as a mentor, I would say Mike, because he was my mentor. My dad was a huge influence in my life because he gave me my work ethic. He didn't give me the dream to dream big. He gave me the dream to make enough money to live within your means and make enough money to where you can support your family and learn how to work with your hands. That's what he gave me. But my Uncle Bob, he gave me the vision to think big. Because at one time in Clinton, he had over 600 units of rental units, doors, and he built most of them. And a huge area of the town he built. And he had 3 kids that had no interest in it. And none of the kids really got along with him. later in the years. They did a little bit, but not much. He gave me a big shot in the arm for, wow, you can achieve all of this. And I always looked at him and thought, gosh, you know what? That's what I want to have someday. I want to have a lot of real estate. I want to have muscle cars. You know, I want to have kids that love me. And I got all that stuff.
Oh, that's great. Okay, Bill, how can our listeners support you? What's the best way for them to connect with you, follow you, all that fun stuff?
They can go to, investorsedgeuniversity.com. They can go to wanderful.com. Those are two of our sites. We own the Colorado REIA, which was CARI, that Bill Bronchek started back in 1994, which is the Denver Real Estate Investment Club. So that's coloradorea.com. They can check us out there, and they can look into all of our different stuff, because we go to different cities and do evening events, and we do 2-day workshops, and we just have a blast. We enjoy the hell out of what we do. In fact, we go to Minnesota every other January because Mike Jacka has us up there, and it's always -10, -20, but we go up there and he'll put 70, 80 people in the room, and we'll have fun for a whole 2 days.
Around the time this is airing, I think you are speaking in the Atlanta area at that REIA meetup, right?
For Rob, yeah, I'm speaking for Rob in a couple weeks, and then we're doing a 2-day workshop down there in Atlanta, and then the same, in about 6 weeks we'll be in Denver doing a workshop, and then about 8 weeks we'll be in Colorado Springs, and then we'll be all over. We go all over the country. And we love to do it because we travel all over and we have fun. We meet so many people, and so many investors tell us, you've touched our lives. I have one investor in Minnesota a couple weeks ago came up to me. His name was Dave. And he said to me Sunday night, this would have been January 12th. He said, I'm 78 years old. He said, I've been in real estate over 50 years. He goes, I've been to over 200 workshops. He goes, I've got to tell you what. He says, you put on the best training for 2 days that I've ever been to. And he goes, I just want you to know I appreciate you. And he shook my hand, walked away, and Thursday he passed away. 4 days later.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, you just never know when it's your last day.
That's a good soundbite there. Hey, one bonus question. Ted wanted to know, do you have any tips for him on how to get on leather pants easily?
Yeah, I got a guy. I got to tell you what. Okay, here's the thing. I'm in New York City a few years ago, and I walk into this market, everybody's got these little shops. Some are open, some are not. And this guy says to me, he goes, hey, you, come over here. Now, I'm dressed kind of like this. He goes, you know what you need? You need a pair of these leather pants. And I said, well, how much are they? I've always wanted a pair of leather pants. He told me, and I said, dude, there's no way in hell I'm spending that kind of money for leather pants. He goes, nope, they're all custom made, everything. Now, in real estate, we talk about when you go to the door to talk to a homeowner in foreclosure, we talk about establishing value. You got to give them information, make them feel comfortable to open up, answer questions, give them options. Don't talk to them about buying their house. Talk to them about buying time and saving their house. 9 out of 10 people don't want to sell their home. So you can't just go up and say, I buy houses cash. I see you're in foreclosure. Here, I want to talk to you about buying your house. So I walk into this place. He says, come over here. You need a pair of these. Tells me how much they are. I said, no. He said, while I'm measuring you, I want to show you something. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll let the guy measure me. Now he's really pushing. So he brings out this binder with all these pictures. And the first picture, it says, thank you, Calvin, for the vest. Signed, Jimi Hendrix. And it's got a picture of Jimi Hendrix and Calvin. Now, Calvin's like 81. It's got a picture of him when he was a young African-American guy standing next to Jimi Hendrix making this vest. Then the next picture is him and Ron Wood with My Leather Pants. Oh, yeah. And him and John Bon Jovi, and him and Steven Tyler, and him and Rod Stewart. And I said, you know what? I'll take them. Because I'm thinking to myself, I'm the real estate rock star. I need to wear leather pants. So when I show up to speak at evening events, that's the only time I wear them. But I got to tell you what, they're like wearing pajamas. I'd wear them every day because they're so damn comfortable, and they're tight, and they've got frills on the sides. I walk in with this shirt, leather pants. People go, who the hell is that? And I just walk right by the check-in table, waiting for them to say, can we get your information, to sign you in? I go, nope, I'm the speaker tonight. I just walk in and I start controlling the room. That's what I do. And people go, okay, this guy's different. I want to hear what he has to say.
That's the way I feel when I put on my my velour tracksuit when I go to the cigar lounge, and I'm like, yep, that's right, purple and yellow, baby, here I come.
You got it. You got it.
Oh, fun stuff, Bill. Thank you for all the information. The stories are amazing. I love the connection that you had to the Midwest too. Kind of bring it home since we're out of Nebraska. I look forward to getting to know you better and chatting with you more. Thank you to Rob for putting us together. So shout out to Rob. I hope you have fun while you're in Atlanta.
Yeah, give me a chance to come there and wear my leather pants in front of your group.
Yeah, we're going to talk and get that figured out.
There you go.
And with that, Owen Dashner, will you see us out?
On behalf of REIA Radio, Aiden Bear, and Ted Kosh, I'm Owen Dashner, and you've been listening to Bill Bold Moves with Women and Real Estate and Life. Twyford, signing on. On behalf of REIA Radio, Aiden Bear, and Ted Kosh. I just totally shorted out my brain. Hang on a second. Okay.